So with the release of Wonder Woman 1984 going to both streaming and cinemas on the same day, luckily I got to see it on the big screen. We now have 9 DCEU movies, which means it's the perfect time to rank them all. So the DCEU started off pretty rocky. Personally, for the most part, I enjoy majority of these movies, but make sure you let me know your ranking in the comments section down below. Which ones you love, which ones do you hate? Let me know all that in the comments section down below. But with all that said, let's go into number 9 in my own personal ranking. Coming in at number 9, I've got the Justice League. Personally, I was never really had a problem with this movie, but then all the recent news with the Snyder Cut, everything we know now about the kind of the behind the scenes information, I just kind of find this movie to now just be a disgusting movie, using what Warner Brothers did at the time, the tragic incidents that went behind the scenes with Zack Snyder's family to trying to get him off of the movie. I think that's all disgusting. But just to talk about the movie itself, I feel it's all over the place. You can heavily see the color tone. Originally it was black and they just threw a horribly looking red color over the top of it. A lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of it you kind of have to know more behind the scenes stuff to try and piece together the movie. Ben Affleck's Batman is a completely different Batman than what we've seen in Batman vs Superman, and I love him in Batman vs Superman, so wasn't really a fan of that. Henry Cavill's Superman, even though I like the Superman in this movie, it's just a complete 180 from what he was in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. So again, it doesn't really feel like the continuation of that character. Jason Momoa was Aquaman. I like him in this. I really don't like Ezra Miller's Flash, and I don't like him at all. I don't really want to see him continue because I don't really like Ezra Miller as an actor, so I'm not really that pushed on seeing what happens next. Steppenwolf as a villain is incredibly forgettable, very bland looking. Just the whole movie in general, it's bland, it's forgettable. It's just like they go, okay, this is what superhero movies are like, we're just going to make a superhero movie like that. But other than that, there really isn't anything in this movie. It's an extremely forgettable movie, which is massively disappointing to say that the Justice League movie, the first Justice League movie, is forgettable. That's heartbreaking to say. And coming in at number 8, I do have the Suicide Squad. Just like with Justice League, I think this movie is absolutely a mess. And it's one of those movies, even with Justice League, I find enjoyment elements into it and I can enjoy it. This movie, I just think it's so much of a mess. I don't really find as much enjoyment in it. But the movie itself, it's got enjoyable characters. Harley Quinn, I'm not really a massive fan of her in general, even in the Birds of Prey. I haven't seen her an awful amount of stuff, but what I have, I'm just not really a massive fan of her character. Jared Leto as Joker. I don't mind him. Honestly, people give him a lot of hate. I actually really don't mind him. I think he's not the best Joker, but you know, he probably is the worst Joker. But in fairness to him, it's not his fault. They really didn't give him much time to do anything. The movie in general, though, it really is a complete mess. They kind of try and set up every one of these characters, but they don't give any character enough time to shine. Even like someone like Will Smith, who is such an incredibly charismatic actor. People would even probably say he's the most charismatic actor. His character in this movie himself is just so one note, so dull. And if it wasn't Will Smith, he would have been even more dull than he actually was in this movie. Katana is just like horrible character. Now I've had that for years. That was way before Suicide Squad I came out. I had that figure, so that figure has nothing to do with the movie one. It's just even like how they explain her character. It was just horrible. Like I think Rick Flag just goes, "This is Katana. Don't let her go near you. That sword." And it's just he just like really just summarizes up the character in one line, and that's not how you set up a character. This whole movie was just a complete mess. It's all over the place. Editing is terrible. Literally, I know they got the people in who did the trailer in to edit the movie, and you can 100% tell as you're watching this movie. Next up, I've got Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, or Birds of Prey and the Harley Quinn, or just simply Harley Quinn the movie. This trailers for the movies, when it came out, I've had no interest whatsoever. Ever since, up until I actually sat in the chair, even as I sat in the chair, I had no interest whatsoever in this movie. I had no hype whatsoever. Now, I've seen this movie twice. First time, I really enjoyed it. Harley Quinn, as I said when I was talking about Suicide Squad, I'm not really a fan of her character. I think she's just a bit too weird and wacky for my liking. I wasn't a fan of her in Suicide Squad, so again, wasn't really excited for this movie. But her in this movie, she's actually a lot more interesting in this movie than she was in the first. I feel like she's an actual character in this movie rather than the first movie where I felt like she was just going after Joker the whole time. In this movie, she's taking a step back from Joker, and she's coming out as a character in her own right, and I loved seeing the progression of Harley Quinn within this movie. Now, the reason I have this lower is the fact that it's called Harley Quinn, or Birds of Prey is the actual name of the movie, but the Birds of Prey aren't in the movie. They literally, I'd say in total, probably have about 10 minutes of screen time, and even that is being generous, because this movie, the screen time for the Birds of Prey isn't really up the forefront. As well, you got Ewan McGregor as Black Mask, I think his name was, absolutely fantastic. He just lived for the screen, absolutely fantastic in the movie. The action sequences, now I know that a lot of these action scenes were filmed by the guys who did John Wick, and you can tell because the action scenes in this movie are all so memorable and so intense and so like actually balls to the wall crazy. One weird thing though, this movie is rated 18s, or R if you live in America. Really doesn't need to be, really don't know why they made it. Next up, I've got Wonder Woman 1984. Now, in my review, I was positive, but I also have my problems with this movie. And the more I sit on it, the more I kind of have problems with it. Now, for the most part, I did enjoy the movie. I had fun with it. Bear in mind, that could be, again, the fact that I haven't been to cinemas in a while, and it was cool to see a new release. But the movie itself, I did actually enjoy. I think Gal Gadot is absolutely fantastic as Wonder Woman. Pedro Pascal, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I thought he was fantastic as a villain. The villains as a whole, they're not the best villains for a Wonder Woman movie, but the actors portraying the villains I thought were fantastic. Kristen Wiig in particular, who, as I said in my review, I don't like her. Everything I've seen her in, I don't like her, so I was quite surprised that I liked her in this movie, which is a pleasant surprise. But one of my problems with it is the fact that I was saying I don't know how this fits in with the DCEU, especially because after this, in our timeline, the next thing that happens for her is Batman versus Superman, and I just don't understand how this Wonder Woman works in that universe, because it's only, I think it's 40 years later, if I remember the time correctly, so I just I couldn't get my head around how that was working. As well, bringing Steve Trevor back, I kind of found it to really damage the ending of the first movie. I liked him in this movie, but I didn't like how they brought him back, and I think it's just I liked him in the first movie. I like seeing them together in this movie, but if you look at it, it doesn't really work bringing him back, and I didn't like. I think it kind of cheapened his death in the first one by bringing him back for the second movie. Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, just keep in mind, I am ranking this off the extended edition because I haven't seen the theatrical cut in about 4 years since that movie came out. And I have no interest in ever watching the theatrical cut again, because the extended edition is much more of a superior movie. It explains a lot. A lot of the problems I had when I left the theatrical cut, when I see it in the cinema, I had to see it twice, because the first time I fell asleep. Second time though, I had a lot of problems that were answered in the extended edition, and ever since then I really enjoy this movie. The reason it does fall just below the rest of these is it doesn't really seem like a Batman and Superman movie. It more kind of focuses on Batman. Don't necessarily have a problem with that, because as you can see, you got a lot more Batman stuff than I have Superman stuff. I'm more of a fan of Batman, but when its names are both, I just would like to see a bit more Superman within this movie. Wonder Woman's introduction it's good. It's not the introduction I would like to see, in the fact that she doesn't really, like, where she is now to where she was then, completely different. Even though what we have seen of her more is before this. It's just, I think it's a bit all over the place personally. But Batman, Ben Affleck is my favourite edition of the Batman. Even I was watching Batman Begins last night, and I still think Ben Affleck is still by far the best Batman. I love him in this movie. I love the warehouse clearing scene. Superman, as I said, I would like to see a bit more of him. Lex Luthor, really don't like. But this movie overall, I absolutely love it. I watch it at least once a year, which is big because it's a 3-hour movie, but I do try at least once a year to watch Batman vs Superman, because I think the extended edition of this movie is it's a good movie compared to the theatrical cut, which if I would say the theatrical cut, I'd say it would have been about it would have been better than Justice League, but I don't know if I would like in the theatrical cut Batman vs Superman or Suicide Squad more. And coming in number 4, I've got Aquaman. Leading up to this movie, I had no expectations, no anticipation whatsoever, because after Justice League, I was quite burned out on DC movies, same way I was with Wonder Woman after Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad. I was the same way for Aquaman, because I thought Justice League just massively let me down. I wasn't even actually going to see this in the cinema, but I got an advanced screening, so I went to go see it in cinema, and I really loved it. I have so much fun with this movie, because even though the stakes are really high, the fact that the ocean is going to pour the ocean people from Atlantis are going to pour the actual water and all the rubbish back onto humanity. The stakes are high. I still really enjoy it because it seems like the stakes are really low. Even though they're high, if they feel really low. And I think that comes down to how much of an easygoing, fun character Jason Momoa plays Aquaman as. And I really like him as Aquaman. When he was first announced and cast, I was thinking, he's nothing like Aquaman. Why the hell is he Aquaman? But I just feel like he's fully embraced Aquaman. I just think what he's done with Aquaman has just turned him into a completely different character. As well, his father is Boba Fett, which is a pretty cool casting. Nicole Kidman plays his mother. I can't think of anything Nicole Kidman else. Other things Nicole Kidman has played, she's kind of blanking at the moment. But I just have so much fun with it. I just think it's fun. The musical choices in this movie, some of them are a bit weird. Toto, Africa, kind of a bit weird. But you do get an Indiana Jones feel as they're going across the world. Patrick Wilson as our main villain was pretty cool because I'm a horror fan. Seeing him also in The Conjuring and Insidious, and then seeing him in Aquaman was a pretty... I liked it. I liked seeing him in this as well. It's directed by James Wan, who also directed those movies. A fantastic director. I think James Wan is better as a horror director. Hopefully when, as far as I know, he's directing Aquaman 2. So hopefully when he does Aquaman 2, it'll be directed a little bit more. Not to say he's a bad director. I just think he's not the best at these big blockbusters. He's more better at these slow or lower budgets. I think he's better at the horror than he is with the action movies. So hopefully with Aquaman 2, he can do a better job. But what he did in Aquaman 1, I'm a massive fan of. In third place, I've got Wonder Woman from 2017. Honestly, going into this movie, I had no idea what to expect. It actually came out the day before I started my Leaving Cert, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to go see this before my Leaving Cert, because if I wait 2-3 weeks, it's going to get spoiled for me. Might not even get a chance to see it in cinema, so I did go before my Leaving Cert to see this one in cinemas, and when I seen it, I was pleasantly surprised, to say the least, because I really wasn't expecting it to be... I didn't know what to expect, especially coming off Batman vs Superman, the theatrical cut, as well as Suicide Squad. I was kind of like, oh, DC, what's going to happen here? But after watching it, I was absolutely blown away. I loved it. I loved the actual character of Wonder Woman. I thought she had a much better portrayal in this movie than she did in Batman vs Superman. The thing that makes it kind of fall flat for me is the third act. The whole third act action sequence doesn't really work. It's kind of just a big mess of a kind of a visual mess if you look at it. I love the relationship between Diana and Steve. I just think they work really well. The chemistry is fantastic, and his sacrifice at the end, you actually feel it. As I said, I think the sequel kind of cheapens that by bringing him back, but this movie on its own, I think that death is so massively powerful, and it just really hits you in the emotions. The action besides the third act it's actually really good action. I love the actual scene, the no man's land scene. That is such an inspirational scene. Seeing everyone's terrified of going up, but she goes, okay, I'm gonna go up, and walks up that stairs and crosses it. Absolutely fantastic. Who would have thought a Wonder Woman movie would have worked? Because I really didn't think this movie or this character was going to work in her own standalone movie, and apparently a lot of other people didn't either, because it took them so many years to make a Wonder Woman movie. Now, my runner-up is Man of Steel. I was heavily contemplating putting this in number one, because the last time I watched this movie, I was blown away. I forgot how good this movie was, because it was actually like a year or so since the last time I saw it, and I was shocked at how good and how amazing and how beautiful and everything. I just loved this movie from start to finish. I actually got to see this one in the cinema. I think this is the only Superman movie I almost got the opportunity to actually watch the original one this year. I think the first time I seen it though, I wasn't overly a massive fan of it, because I grew up watching the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, so then going to see this one at 13, I was like, this is not Superman, I don't like this. So I didn't watch it for a couple of years, and I rewatched it, I'm like, no, this is good. And then again rewatching it this year, I'm like, no, this is fantastic. This is a fantastic movie. It's a massively underrated comic book movie. Everyone just brushes it off, going, oh, that's just Zack Snyder. Even though I don't understand, I don't know why people don't like Zack Snyder as a director, but the Superman movie being told here is just so impactful, so inspirational. Henry Cavill, I go back and forth to, I like more all the time, because I think Henry Cavill looks more like Superman. He just embodies it more. But then Christopher Reeve, that's the Superman I think of. The oh gosh, oh darn, all that kind of Superman, that's what I think of. So I really go back and forth on who I like more, but I just think Henry Cavill as Superman is fantastic, and I'm excited we're going to see more of him. Hopefully soon, maybe one day we'll get a Man of Steel too, but who actually knows. General Zod in this movie, loved it. I loved all the back and forth between them. I loved the fight scene between them. Amy Adams as Lois Lane, I've never been a fan of. I've never liked her. I don't know what it is. She's never felt like Lois Lane to me. She always just seems like Amy Adams playing Lois Lane. I've never really got that Lois Lane kind of feel off her, and for the most part, everyone in DCEU, I always feel like they're playing their characters. It's just whatever reason, Lois Lane has just never felt like Lois Lane to me. And coming in first place, I've put Shazam. This movie, I find it to be endlessly rewatchable. It came out last year, and I'd say I've seen it 4 or 5 times, maybe even more. I just find it to be so much fun. Zachary Levi in the role, I think is fantastic, and he's never someone I would have thought of, because up until seeing this movie, I've only ever seen him in as Flynn Rider in Tangled, and that was just Flynn Rider in Tangled. Now I know it's Zachary Levi. I also know he's in one of the Thor movies. I think it's 2 and 3 he's in, actually. I don't really know, but you wouldn't really recognize him in that movie. I just think in this movie he embodies the childish way of Billy Batson. I think it just works really well. One of my complaints with it, though, is that Shazam and Zachary Lee and Billy Batson don't really feel like the same person. Where if you were to take, who else transforms? I can't think of anyone else, but they usually feel like the same character. Even actually the rest of the kids in this movie, the young girl in particular, she feels like the same person, as well as the guy who loves all the superheroes. He feels like the same person. It's just Billy Batson and Shazam don't really feel like the same person. The villain in this movie he's not the best DC villain, but he's interesting in his own right. All of it, I just think this movie works really well. I think it's so much fun, so rewatchable, and that Superman tease at the end was just, didn't like that. That's my ranking of the DCEU. Let me know your ranking in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. If you want to see more from me in the future, make sure to click that subscribe button so you can come back and see my review of Soul, which will be dropping tomorrow. I'm going to do an updated ranking of the Pixar movies. I think this is 23, I think I want to say. Looking forward to doing that, because a lot of these have moved around, and I love talking about Pixar. So if you want to see more Pixar content from me in the next couple of days, make sure you click that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.